You are now listening to the Curtis King Podcast. What's going on with you music producers, and welcome to the Curtis King Podcast. If this is your first time listening, we want to say welcome and thank you for listening. Whether it's on Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you are reporting live from, we want to say thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. If you enjoy it, if you like the topic at hand, definitely give us a 5-star rating. If you don't know what it is and you're just being curious, this is a podcast specifically for music producers, but we also like to say that we relate to thinkers and creatives alike, and those that put a special emphasis on mental health. So we want to say thank you for listening. If you are ever interested in seeing the video version of this, which we do host on YouTube, go check us out. Go ahead and just go type in Curtis King TV, Curtis King Podcast, and you'll find the channel. You'll find any episode that you want to go back and watch from the past. And come over here and join the community. Really supportive, creative community. That's just not just music producers, but one thing I can say is that it's just a lot of great creative individuals that really support one another and feed off of each other's energy. So we would love to welcome you to that community. That being said, today's episode is going to be split into two parts for one episode. Split into two parts. First part is going to be talking about self-doubt. And then the second one is going to be really in continuous honor of the late, great Nipsey Hussle in something I want to call marathon learning. Because I think that the two relate to each other, but I think I have to tell the story of self-doubt first in order to give it some proper context and how it relates to me and how I think that you could benefit with it no matter what level of experience you have. Now, there was a meme that I posted, and it resonated with my audience, as I kind of figured it would. I'm going to actually post it up right here.
Doesn't seem to matter, and it doesn't seem, but the will is right, no fucking feel like crying alone, and don't you judge of my composure.
So as you can read from the caption, this is me. I'm Michael Jackson in this scenario. And damn, this beat I'm working on is fire, right? It's an inner thought that you have. Damn, this beat I'm working on is fire. And then self-doubt is this young lady that's wilding out, because self-doubt be like, nah, you having way too much fun in there. You way too confident. Let me come tear you down real quick. Nah, fam. Nah, you better know who I am. What you mean you're not going to listen to me? And meanwhile, Michael is just going in. He is in a zone. That to me is like flow state versus the prefrontal cortex as that part of your brain that is known to be judgmental and known for critical thinking. That is what this relationship looks like and has looked like for myself for quite some time. But the caption that I added to this is on my Instagram, which is at Curtis King 2S's, is self-doubt is tricky sometimes. No matter how long you've been making music, everyone, including myself, has had these moments. When they come up and go aggressively at my head top, I like to play a game of so what, then what. An example, you know nobody's gonna like this beat. So what? Then what? Then you'll be a failure. So what? Then what? Well, you would have wasted your time. Really? So what? Then what? I don't know. Just think it's stupid to continue. Eventually, your mind runs out of these doomsday scenarios to distract you with because you've faced what your mind fears. Let me take that again. Eventually, your mind runs out of doomsday scenarios to distract you with because you've faced what your mind ultimately fears. Self-doubt is something that is debilitating for a lot of people. And if you saw the movie Soul, which I referenced, I think, a few weeks ago, there's a scene in it where the main character, not to give it away, but the main character goes to a place that is a land for mentors, that is like a transition land for new souls. It's a really deep concept when you really think about it. This is a Disney movie. But in this transition spot, this place for mentors to mentor new souls, there's also another dimension that these characters go into, these souls go into, that represents this fantasy, endless, floaty space where folks find their inspiration, where folks get into their quote unquote zone, where musicians go when they get into the zone. And it was really ironic that whoever wrote this and the director of this, they also made it to where that zone that we go to spiritually when we're making music was also very, very close to, because the people were floating who are in this other dimension. And on the ground level, you got these creatures that are shadow creatures. And these shadow creatures are struggling with self-doubt. They're struggling with being at jobs that they don't have any purpose at, or they can't find their purpose. And they end up in this place where they are not able to tap into that inspiration. And they are really in this aimless and non-motivating space, and they're not able to tap into their creativity. Self-doubt has literally destroyed their very creative tools. I love that scene. I love that scene so much in that movie, even though it's a quote-unquote kids movie. There's a lot of deep concepts in it. But what I take from that is that there are a lot of creatives that want to fly. There's a lot of creatives and a lot of producers that see other people who get in these zones, and the shadow creature that they currently are, they at some point give up and own that as their identity. When they own that as their identity, they do as shadow creatures do. They attack those who are floating. They get irritable with those that are floating. They throw their opinions at people who are floating. Specifically for me, and I don't want to make this another damn rant about somebody else that didn't piss me off on the internet, but specifically as I have become more and more vulnerable within my live streams, and I have shown you not just the good parts of making music when they occur, because we've had a lot of great moments, but I also show you those moments where I'm having a not so good day. And instead of making excuses for it, instead of trying to, cheat my way around it, I'll just tell you, hey, you know what? Today I feel defeated. Why? Because one, I'm not insecure. I'm not that insecure. Everybody's insecure. I'm not that insecure where I have to hide my mistakes as if nobody makes mistakes. Okay? I'm very secure in that. I have no problem showing you the mistakes that I make along the way, especially because I know that there are other folks who are in the middle ground between shadow creatures and those floaty woaty people who are so close to floating, but also so close to being a shadow creature. You can call them trolls or whatever you want to call them. We just know that they have currently given up where they're at. Not the people in the transition, not the people that are in the middle. The people who are in the middle are the folks that I feel like come to these live streams and they're looking for a little bit of a spark. They're looking for a little bit of motivation, a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of, damn, I saw how you struggled through that, but you stuck with it, and that makes me want to stick with it. And I had a moment last week where I started to, in promotion, of course, of the Beat Timer plugin that we released, I wanted to start doing 10-minute beat drills. I haven't done 10-minute beat drills in quite some time. And that's not an excuse. I just have spent my time doing many different things. And as I transitioned back into doing it, and I did it for a live audience, they're looking at me like, oh, you must be the greatest at 10, or some folks may look at it like that, or you must be the greatest 10-minute beat driller because you're the first person I heard mention 10-minute beat drills. And if you don't know what those are, they're basically 10 minutes on the clock. You challenge yourself to not just make a fire beat or make a complete beat, but you simulate what it's like ultimately to be in your flow state by closing the walls in on yourself and not allowing yourself to really have much time to make decisions or think about decisions. You got to just go and do. That's the purpose of the 10-minute beat drill. It's not a sword measuring contest, as some people like to say. Somebody came in there and was like, that's the best you can do in 10 minutes. I make better beats than that. And I just like, yeah, that's what's up, man. I'm glad you make beats to get other producers' nipples hard. That's fire. Like you're winning at life. You did that. It's not the goal of. That's not my goal. That's not my goal. You can get them and them percolate nipples. You can do what you want to do. That's not my goal. My goal is to show you what this process looks like, and that I too. Oh my gosh! Miracle breaking news. Curtis King makes mistakes. Curtis King second guesses himself sometimes. Sometimes he'll second guess the process. Sometimes he'll get a little bit nerved by the time. Oh no, say it ain't so. Yes, that happens. Even though I am the one that creates it, even though I can teach it to other people and teach them how to be more efficient at it, it can still be a challenge. The whole point of it is that it is a challenge that meets you at your current skill level. And so when we talk about the idea of self-doubt, just know, as I put out into that caption, just know self-doubt is not going anywhere. No matter how confident you become, self-doubt is a very necessary voice, a very necessary energy that must exist so that you continuously evolve. I think that, and you may disagree, I think that when you start to get into the world of feeling confident about your craft, it's a beautiful thing, right? When you get out of that place where you're not doubting everything that you're doing, where you're like, you know what, I know what I'm doing and I'm actually making great music. I believe in myself. That's a good space to be. When you start to go further than that, and that confidence starts to get into a place where you're now listening to the external hype or the artificial excitement around you, and it's convincing you that you can do no wrong and have no bad day, that's where we start to get to dangerous place. Now, some people may hear hype and say, well, I love when my friends hype me up. It's not the context or the perspective I'm talking about. When we're talking about hype in its original context, the word hype has more to do with giving the perspective of something being more popular than what it actually is. You're hyping it up, right? You are trying to simulate artificial publicity and make believers out of it. When in all actuality, people are not believers of it quite yet, not to the magnitude that you're pushing the hype. And when you start to believe in your own hype, you start to take your own drug, because hype is a drug. It's like clout is a drug. It's almost like you believe it in your own clout when you don't have clout. It's another word for it. When you get to a space where you start to believe in that hype and you can do no wrong, I've heard people that said about their craft that it's too easy. It's too easy for me. And something never sat right with me when I heard that. I get producers, making beats is too easy. Man, this is nothing. I make 30 beats in 10 minutes. Okay, that's outrageous. What's the race, first of all? And second of all, where do you challenge yourself to evolve? Because I think that once you start to believe your own hype, you start to get into a space where you don't see motivation. You don't have the motivation to continuously evolve, right? All you want to do is levitate based upon what audience you think is already at your feet praising the things that you do. You just want to keep that going. What is the motivation to evolve from there? I like to look at it as, I remember Andre 3000 said it one time. He said that he always approached writing lyrics. And mind you, Andre 3000, if you don't know, he's one of the greatest lyricists of all time. I don't know if this is kind of like, I don't know if it's real, some of the stuff he says sometimes where he's like, he has quotes like this, but, excuse me, he said something along the lines, and this is not verbatim, but he said something along the lines of, when he got into the room, he always felt like the wackest rapper, which is crazy to even fathom since he's so many people's favorite rapper. But he said he felt like he was the wackest rapper in the room. And because of that, it made him want to work harder. Now, I think there's something in this that has a lot of value to those of you that are fighting through self-doubt. I think that you do want to elevate to a place of okay, I know what I'm doing and I trust my decision making. Even when it's not always on point, like I trust my decision making. That's a good place to get to. That's a healthy place to get to, I think. But after that, I feel like you don't want to get to a place where you get too full of yourself, because then it dilutes and it pulls you away from what I think the biggest message in that Andre 3000 quote is, which is if you address the room, and this is any room that you're in, it could be the room that you're in right now, your studio, or going out and collabing with people. If you say to yourself, I don't have the luxury of this person's talent. I don't have the luxury of this natural voice or this natural speed towards making music. But you know one thing that doesn't require talent? Hard work. You know one thing that doesn't require me to have this natural, raw mystique to my creative? Hard work. Working hard is something that you don't have to have a talent in your bone to do. Working hard is a decision. And not all talented individuals work hard. Not at all times. Some folks rest on their natural talent, their natural skill, and they kind of just float in that above average space and don't feel a necessity to evolve because ever since they started, they've been told that they have the potential to be one of the greatest or that they are the greatest. And I look at people like that sometimes and I'm like, I sympathize for them because they don't even realize that they're in that middle space. And many of them, sometimes they'll even disclose it to me that they are unmotivated by making music because they have sipped their own Kool-Aid. And because they've sipped their own Kool-Aid and believe their own hype, it's like, what is the necessity to grow? What is the motivation? Everybody's already telling me I'm fire. I know when I put it out, I'm going to get this kind of reaction. And so I think that with using that quote from Three Stacks, I think that a bit of self-doubt will forever be with you, first of all. How that self-doubt plays a role in your career, how that self-doubt plays a role in your decision-making is up to you. Because I don't believe in trying to get rid of self-doubt or rid yourself of the opposite of what you desire. Because I think that in order for you to be the confident individual you are, you had to go through some kind of training, some kind of strength endurance training to allow you to build up the thick skin necessary, to allow you to have the aha moments that said, no, that's not true. Like I hear the voice in my head, but that's not true. That's literally not true. And so self-doubt is just as worthy of praise as your breakthrough moments. Self-doubt, you need that. I think you need some self-doubt. I think that it puts you in a place where you don't just rely upon the things that you're great at. You're always thinking of ways to improve. It puts you in a place where you never get too comfortable. And I think that if there is any key to the success that I have had is that I am forever evolving. I could have stopped when I wrote my book and it was #1 in the hip hop charts for books that were coming out at that point in time on Amazon. I could have stopped there. I could have stopped when I started to win awards for the video game advertisements that I scored. So what? Who cares? I could have stopped when I worked with the Kendricks or worked with Justin Timberlake in the Levi's commercial. Who cares? Who cares? I have more work to do. And so I'm realizing that having a healthy amount of that on you allows you to, if you focus less on the doubt aspect of it and you look at it as self-reflection, I think you should keep a healthy amount of that around you. I think that it will put you in a place where you're forever thinking of the next move, right? As you are finding footing, as you are finding your voice and you become elevated in your talent, that's a beautiful thing. But in order for you to move from that level to the next level, it's got to be resistance. You don't build muscle lifting light weights. You build muscle lifting heavy weights and having resistance. The muscle, the proverbial muscle within music, is putting yourself in situations where you doubt if you have the appropriate skills to accomplish that. Self-doubt, self-reflection, whatever you want to call it, I think it's healthy to have it. So for those of you that are like, I don't know if I should put this music out, I don't know if anybody's going to like what I'm doing. Yeah, so what? Now what? So what? Then what? I tell myself this all the time because at the end of the day, the worst case scenario is never the worst case scenario. Even my brain that feels like it knows me and knows my trigger words and knows my worst thoughts does not know the worst case scenario, because then it wouldn't be a worst case scenario, because then it'd be like, oh, damn, I didn't even see that coming. It wouldn't even have, if I can see it coming, how bad can it really be? So I ask the question whenever my brain starts to fuck with me. I ask the question, okay, so what, then what? And I ask that question until that self-doubt, the bad part of self-doubt, until it starts running out of scenarios of of the then what, it starts to run out of steam and run out of energy. And once it runs out of energy, what's left is, okay, so you're done, right? Can I get back to work? There's another quote, or actually a clip that I want to share with you that it's a UFC fighter. Some boss shit. I saw this video on Instagram and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to use it for, and I just now thought about it. So let me play this clip for you right now.
To get what you want. You know, a lot of people say they're about this life. A lot of people, think they want something, but when it's placed in front of them, they fold. And for me, I heard the devil talking to me. I heard that voice in the third round and the fourth round, like, oh, you've shown yourself, you've dropped them. You've survived this long. It's okay, you can slow down now. It's okay. And I was just like, shut the up, I'm busy. That's what I did. Because I didn't need that kind of negative self-talk, So, yeah, that moment for me was one of the greatest moments of my life. Just that moment, not the fight. That moment right there was one of the greatest moments of my life.
Yo, what's this dude's name? I'm getting more and more into UFC. Israel Adesanya. I know I probably butchered that. But Israel, there's a clip that went viral that I saw on my Instagram months ago, and it first turned my attention towards Israel. But the clip is him, his face is bloodied up, and he's not even looking at the camera, he's looking at his opponent, and he's like basically I was born for this, and I'm willing to die. I'm ready to die, is what he said in the ring. He said, I'm ready to die, before he went and whooped this dude's ass. And he said, when he endured self-doubt while in the ring, when that voice starts to talking to him like, man, you almost, man, you're losing it, man. You're losing momentum. He said, man, shut the fuck up. I got work to do. You done? I got work to do. I'm busy. And it's the same thing I'm suggesting to you. Get in there, get ugly, and eat. Now let's talk to our sponsors. We got a new sponsor, ladies and gentlemen. Vocally, a doubler. You've seen me use this amazing technology. That's why you gotta preface it like that. I don't even want to call it a musical instrument, but the doubler, oh my goodness. You guys have seen me use this microphone that transitions your voice into MIDI that triggers sound effects. I'm glad to be living in 2021. So shout out to Doubler sponsoring the Curtis King podcast. They're powering the Curtis King podcast. Want to make sure we have a short commercial break for them, and we'll come back and we'll talk about marathon learning. See you in a second. The Curtis King Podcast is proudly sponsored by the Voclia Doubler. What is a doubler? Well, I think better than telling you, I should show you. You trying to tell me I can use this microphone to make beats, to make melodies, to make chord progressions? I can use my voice? I'm all in. Pretty cool, right? Check this out. The Voclia Doubler represents the future of making music. The Voclia Doubler is a real-time voice recognition MIDI controller. It offers up a never-before-seen way to translate your musical ideas into reality, using the one instrument you've been practicing since birth, your voice. Make more of the music you love without having to worry about how to get your ideas into your DAW. Before the Doubler even sponsored this podcast, I picked it up just because I'm a geek about technology, and I personally picked up the Doubler Studio Kit, which allows you to hum a melody, a synth pattern, or even beatbox one-shots right into FPC if you use FL Studio or whatever DAW that you're using. This also allows you to manipulate effects and filters in a way that only the voice can. To get the Studio Doubler Kit, all you gotta do is access getdoubler.com/Curtis King. Okay, shout out to Voclia Doubler. Let's get into the second half of the podcast. We're going to be talking about something that I said is in honor of the late, great Nipsey Hussle. And obviously, you know that his mission statement, one of the biggest things that he was known for was this idea and this concept of the grind being a marathon. And it's something that already resonated with me when I was first exposed to it years and years ago. But the more that I heard him speak about it and the more that I understood it through his interpretation, the more I really understood how many levels of marathon there is. There is the direct working hard and hustling and getting into a place where you are literally doing all the work that most folks don't want to do, because you know that you're setting yourself up for the long term and you know you're going to be here long term. There's that aspect of it too. But then I started thinking about, like, literally everything that you want is a marathon. Everything that you want. The producer that you want to become. The confidence that you want to have. The marriage that you want to have, the relationship you want to have, the friendships you want to have. School in itself is a marathon. And so something that I wrote on my board is that I want to approach learning from a marathon perspective. And in order to do that in 2021, it requires you to have a healthy level of thick skin. Because as you are marathon learning, say, for example, we're going to just talk specifically to what I'm doing right now. As I'm learning to mix better, as I'm learning, like really, really sitting down and going slow to go fast with my mixing, I'm showing every part of my mixing process. Right? I'm showing you the times where the vocals are super muddy and clouded by the beat. I'm showing you where the 808s are too loud and the vocals are fighting with it. As I'm learning parallel compression, as I'm learning how to really utilize multiple compressors to get that sound, that presence that I want. As I start to download and purchase numerous Waves plugins to get there, I'll get there. And I'll learn. But the way that I am learning is not in silence anymore. I refuse to learn in silence anymore. I refuse to learn a bunch of different things so I can look perfect in front of the general public. I refuse to do that anymore. I want to learn in front of you. I want those that actually value the process. I want them to see the benefit and allowing yourself to make mistakes in front of the public eye. For everyone else that has their opinions and doesn't like it, you need to wait till it's perfect, good luck with your career. But you can't control this one. So as I'm marathon learning mixing, as I'm marathon learning music theory, as I'm marathon learning the piano, I realize when you do that and you put it out into the world, it exposes a lot of people who are not comfortable with sharing their imperfections. There are a lot of people who are convinced that you should not ever put anything but your best foot forward. And they have a healthy argument, they have a good argument, they have a great argument. Because for the longest, I thought like that. For the longest, people around me thought like that. But as I get older and as I realize the time period we're living in and the way that people consume things like vlogs and consume quote unquote reality TV and how much they want to see the flaws in you, I think it's part of the reason that so many women and so many human beings related to Cardi B as she came up, because they literally saw her from strip club scenes, the strip club portion of her life into the reality TV show star she became, into the artist that she became, and now the household name that she is right now. They feel like they're a part of that journey. They love watching her videos where she's like not even all makeuped up. She got like, like the zit cream all over her face. Like they want to see that. They want to see the authenticity, especially in 2021, 2020, just our era of music, just our era of culture. People don't want to see you be perfect all the time. They become skeptical when you're perfect all the time. They start to look at you like, what are you hiding, bro? What are you hiding? Nobody can be that perfect. And then that's when you start getting the cancel culture and the cancel police looking for things that make you imperfect and force you to have a perfect moment. I don't agree with cancel culture. I don't think that anybody who has not been canceled by God, first of all, I don't think we have a right to cancel anybody, because for whatever reason that we think somebody should be canceled, we're guilty of the same thing. We're guilty of how something made this, how you felt when this person said something. Were you on the very, very general level, not the details, the general level? I felt offended. It made me feel like less of a man or less of a woman, and I was offended. Have you never ever said anything to anyone at any age that made them feel lesser? Have you been so perfect and without flaw that you have never put yourself in a situation where you have offended someone? So if you are guilty for the same thing, then you have to watch the things that you try to cancel and the people that you try to cancel along with it. That being said, it is important that as I learn more, and I encourage you to do the same thing, as I learn, I do as Gary Vee talks about all the time, document. I understand it now more so than ever. Documenting your imperfections. I have, oh my goodness, I literally have almost 50 episodes of Flowcation, in addition to all the other content of me making beats live, where you're seeing me on good days, bad days, not so sharp days, amazing flow state days, and you see it all. I give it all. But you're going to feel the people who've been there, right? My HGCs, my T sketches, my Isaacs, my folks, my Jay Starks, my Reflex, my Courtney's, like, y'all have seen the growth. And you've seen the struggle. You have seen the highlights and the lowlights. But because you have seen that, does it not make things a little bit intriguing? A little bit more intriguing. Shout out Blake too. Does it not make things more intriguing that you have seen them from their ugliest states? You've seen them from their very immature states to now they start to flourish. So as I move forward and as I know that I am here for the long term, and I don't say that from a delusional standpoint, because life can be taken away from anyone at any given point in time. But I say that from the place of I am prepared for this marathon. And the way that you stay prepared for a marathon is to, one, respect the marathon's length. to respect just how long it is, this marathon of life, and respect the gangster of this marathon, but then also respect the time that it takes, the patience it requires. And I'm ready to do that. The errors that occur, I'm ready to show that. And so I have made a dedication this year to letting folks get these off. You got to get your rocks off. Get your disrespect off. Whatever you want to say about me, yeah, sometimes I snap back. Sometimes I snap back like a hat. I snap back at folks. You know what I'm saying? Depending on what kind of mood I'm in, but it's never personal. But I've made the commitment to let folks have their piece. Say your piece. Say everything you got to say. Because I know that you're only here for a second. The folks who are your biggest naysayers, who are dealing with their own issues that I'm very sympathetic for you, empathetic for you. Those who are your biggest naysayers, they only come when you have, your biggest naysayers only show up when it's time for bad grades. They never show up for progress reports. What do I mean by that? Your biggest critics only show up when you have bad times, bad grades. When you get an F, look at you, you got an F. Oh, what did you even study, dumbass? They only show up when you get bad grades. You know, the ones where it's like, if that was me, I'd be super embarrassed. And they sound like that. And they eat troll sandwiches, macaroni and peanut butter underneath the bridge. But they only show up for bad grades. They never show up when you actually get better. Why is that? Because it's not fun for them anymore. You weren't supposed to get better. You were supposed to succumb to the same criticism that they succumbed to and turn into one of them, the shadow folks. So you keep on doing what you're doing. You let them talk. You let them say whatever. You let them get their rocks off. Let them go at your head. Let them say whatever they want to say. But just smile with the confidence that you know what this is and you know where it's going. That being said, my friends, thank you for watching another episode of the Curtis King Podcast. Music producer, creatives, and thinkers alike, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's podcast, definitely leave us a 5-star rating and some commentary. Let the folks on the other side know who are being nosy, just like you once were, in a good way. That this is something safe to come to. It's good over here. It's good at motivation. Good stuff to get you started on your Monday morning or whenever you're listening to this. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, definitely leave some commentary. What did you resonate the most with today? What are you going to marathon learn at this year? I would love to know that, actually. Leave it down low and leave it down below in the comments, and we'll discuss it as a community. But that being said, I just want to say thank you for supporting this podcast. Thank you to Voclia Doubler for sponsoring, empowering this podcast. I am honored to be able to share such amazing technology and to be aligned with these forward-thinking brands. Thank you for those of you that are supporting the Beat Timer. We're already reaching about 2,000 producers that are already downloaded it. Fire. Keep on downloading at beattimer.com. I'm telling you, we got some great prizes and rewards coming up for those of you that are getting through your 30-day beat challenge. You're going to see them as they start to unlock. But my friends, like I always say, in this life, you will not be full of life until you decide to live life to its fullest. Once again, it's Curtis King of the Curtis King Podcast. Have a good one.